Hey there. The video today is going to be about grounding skills, and I want to share some examples of grounding skills that I use. Grounding is basically using your different senses to get in touch with your body and in touch with the present moment, like sight, smell, touch, taste, hearing, proprioception, just using all of your different senses. So some of my favorite things I like to use for grounding, I like to use oils. For example, this is lavender essential oil. And this is good for grounding because you can smell it. And just be mindful of the smell. Just notice what you're smelling. And also lavender has a calming effect on the nervous system, so that can also help with grounding. So that's an example of using smell to ground yourself. There's a lot of different types of oils that you can get. Eucalyptus works really well too. There's a lot of different kinds, so I recommend trying several and finding some that you like. Something else that's helpful for grounding with smell, you can use things like Palo Santo, wood, or sage, and you just burn them and it'll make a smell that's really strong and really helps a lot with grounding. And it's also a pleasant smell, so that can also just make you feel better. I like these kinds of things for grounding too, because you get grounding through smell, and then when you're burning them, you can also watch the smoke rise from them, so using your vision to get grounded. It can be helpful to look around the room and identify different objects. For example, you could ask yourself to look around the room and identify everything that is the color black, or something like that. It can help too in particular, if you're having flashbacks. It can help to look around the room that you're in and consciously tell yourself things that are different now than in the past. Like, for example, I have a yoga ball over there in the corner, and I didn't used to own a yoga ball in the past, so I can recognize that and know that it's the present because that is there and it didn't used to be. You can tell yourself ways that the room that you're in is different now than the one you were in before. Just ways that things have changed, just bringing disintegrated parts of your mind up to date on how things are now, because that'll help you feel safer overall and more connected overall, and will decrease flashbacks. So checking in like that in conjunction with doing grounding skills is really effective. Also, just listening to music can be really helpful if you are feeling ungrounded. Finding music that you like, that you enjoy listening to, and playing that if you're feeling disconnected, and just focusing on the sound of the music. Finding music that has a good calming frequency on your nervous system so it can help you feel safer and more able to connect to your body. You can ground yourself by putting your feet on the floor and feeling the floor beneath your feet. You can ground yourself by touching things around you. For example, you can feel a surface and you can feel if it's flat, if it's hot or cold. Just being mindful of different qualities of the things that you touch. It can be really helpful too, having something like a ring that you wear, and if you're feeling a little ungrounded, you can just spin it on your hand or it can be helpful to have something that has like a texture to it, because then you can move your hand over the texture and you can feel the texture and be mindful of that. So really anything that helps give feedback to your senses can be used as a grounding tool. It's helpful to find things that you can carry with you easily so you can use them whenever you need. That's why I like using things like a ring. It can be really useful to have just little things that you can play with in your hands and just feel that sensory feedback. You can use just a rock or a marble. One thing that I found really useful was to carry a stress ball around with me, because a stress ball is heavy and you can squeeze it, so it also gives that sensory feedback. You can move it back and forth from hand to hand to get that bilateral stimulation going, which can be helpful. So having a stress ball that you can just carry around and use if you're feeling a little ungrounded can be really beneficial. Holding something cold, like holding an ice cube in your hand, that one's really helpful because sometimes you can be so dissociated that you can't connect with certain senses. Like, for example, I've had times where I've been so dissociated, I've been trying to smell something to get grounded, but I can't smell anything. Or I'm trying to hold something in my hand to get grounded, but I can't feel anything in my hand. Times like that, ice can be really useful because it's just so cold. It's such a shock that it kind of breaks through that dissociation. And if you hold it in your hand, you will feel it. So that's been really helpful a lot of times, holding an ice cube or ice pack, just putting an ice pack to your skin. That one, I definitely recommend that if you need a lot of grounding in that moment. Some other examples of things that I find useful for grounding. Having something heavy can be really useful for grounding yourself, for that proprioception. I actually found this on the floor. It's just like a business card holder, and I find it really helpful because it's small enough that I can hold it in my hand, and it's heavy, so I can really feel that sensory feedback when I hold it in my hand, and that helps me get more grounded to my body. And you can kind of toss it back and forth between your hands to get even extra sensory input. I also like how it has edges, so they're not sharp enough for you to cause any harm to yourself, but it's pointy enough for you to really feel it. That can help too, just having sensory feedback. You can really use anything that you find useful. Like I said, I just found this. It's not even made for grounding, but I find it grounding. It's also really useful just to have something heavy that you can hold in your lap. Having something like a heavy bag of rice that you hold in your lap can be really helpful. Or even anything heavy, like for example, you can get a weight and just hold this and just feel the weight of it. Things like that I find extremely effective personally for getting back into your body and getting grounded into the present moment. It can help to just hold something in your arms, something soft. You can just feel the texture of it. And that can feel nice and safe and comforting, which can help you get more grounded. And it can be helpful if you choose to even buy things that are made for sensory feedback. So this is a good example of one. It's movable, you can kind of rearrange it into different shapes. It's springy. And this kind of thing you can just play with in your hands, and it provides that sensory feedback to help you get more connected to your body. This is another example of something like that. This provides a lot of sensory feedback. all the different little things sticking out of it. So, stuff like this. Some other things that I find really useful for grounding, doing active things can be really great. So going on a walk outside, doing like a mindful walk where you take the time to notice what's around you and really take in the sights and sounds and smells. You can ask yourself, what do I hear right now? What do I see right now? What am I touching right now? For example, stuff like that. So going on a walk can be really good if you feel safe to do that. Also, for something you can do inside, it can be really helpful to do an active hobby, like playing guitar, for example. Just holding the guitar and feeling the strings on your fingers and doing the active motion of strumming and hearing the music that's produced. That can all be really grounding and involves a lot of different senses. For example, you can use washing the dishes as a grounding exercise. So wash the dishes in a mindful way. Be very aware of the feeling of the dishes in your hands, the weight of them. Be aware of the water going over your hands and the feeling of that, and the sound of the water and the plates and whatnot. So in that way, you can actually use just a lot of daily activities to help promote grounding by doing it with a quality of mindfulness and trying to be very aware of your different senses while you're doing whatever the task is that you're doing. I like being able to do things like taking care of plants, just being around nature, taking care of house plants if you don't have nature too close outside. That can be really grounding because it really calls for you to be in the present moment when you're looking at the plants, caring for them, going on a walk in nature. You can look at the plants around you and just be very aware of that, and it feels safe, so that also helps with getting grounded. Nature can be really healing that way. It can be very grounding during difficult situations to write in a journal where you're discussing your thoughts and feelings. You have the physical action of writing, so that is providing sensory input, and that's helpful for grounding. And journaling is also calming and engages your parasympathetic nervous system, which helps to calm you down. Journaling can help you to process your feelings and get more in touch with your own feelings, and in that way more in touch with your own body, because that's where your feelings reside. And journaling can help give you more of a big picture, objective view of whatever you're dealing with. So that can also help to decrease stress and make you feel more able to be grounded in your experience. So those are examples of a lot of grounding things that you can do on your own. Finally, one last grounding skill I wanted to mention is just talking to people. If you are able to be in a relationship with somebody where you can talk to them and you feel seen and heard and understood, that can help you a lot to get grounded. Just being able to have a conversation with them and feel connected to them, that helps you get more connected to the present moment and to your body. So that's been extremely helpful. Just having good relationships that I can use as a safe base of connection to the world around me and to myself. So those are just a few examples of things that I like to do on a daily basis for grounding. And if you'd like to share down in the comments what you do for grounding and what you've found helpful for yourself, that would definitely be great so that other people can get access to that information too. And feel free to share if you've tried any of the grounding techniques in this video, either in the past or or just now as a response to this video. Let me know if you found them helpful. I hope everybody has a great day, and take care.